This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight Now, we bring you a discussion on evolving situation in Afghanistan and its implications on world and region. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chowdhury, journalist.
We are talking about the situation in Afghanistan now that the United States has finally ended its military engagement in that country on August 31st. This has left Afghanistan, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, entirely in a situation of flux and uncertainty. I'd like to ask Ashok, is the Indian ambassador in Qatar, Mr. Deepak Mittal, met with the Taliban representative, very senior Taliban official, Sher Mohammad Abbas Tanikzai, who is the head of the Taliban's political office in Doha, on the very day that the United States left, was Tuesday. And they seem to have established the first formal contact between the government of India and the Taliban. Now, to your mind, what is the significance of this meeting between the Indian government, which has always been very wary of any direct dealings with the Taliban? How is this meeting significant and why?
I think it's very significant because this is the first time that the Indian government has really come out in the open to acknowledge its contacts with the Taliban. Right from the time of 2009, 2010, when there was talk about good Taliban and bad Taliban, we had distanced ourselves. In September 2020, when the formal official conversation dialogue between the Afghan government and the Taliban started in Doha, then our ambassador had attended the meeting and our external affairs minister had also given a message. It has been clear for some time that there have been some back-channel consultations between the Indian government and the Taliban for the last several months. The Indian government has never come out in the open about it, but one of the official spokesperson for the Taliban, Suhail Shaheen, he said that yes, we have been in touch with India and we have been talking. I think this also became clear, Nilova, from the fact that earlier this year, our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, was in Qatar, where the Doha political office is located. He was there twice in the space of 1 week. Then he was also in Tehran, in Moscow, just around the time when Taliban delegations were also visiting those countries and those capitals. It was known that the Indian government had been engaging Taliban for some time, but this is the first time that India has come out openly and acknowledged that it has these contacts. Another important and significant element in this discussion was that the meeting was asked for by Mr. Tanikzai, and he's the head of the political office in Doha. So he's an important person. And also that the meeting took place in the Indian embassy in Doha, and the Indian ambassador did not travel to meet Tanikzai, but it was the other way around. And of course, in this meeting, India put forward its demands, its requirements, first in terms of repatriation and evacuation of all Indian nationals who are left there. Secondly, that an assurance that no part of the Afghan territory will be used against India for terrorist purposes, as was done when the earlier Taliban government was in power from 1996 to 2001. And thirdly, that those who are Afghans of Indian origin, like Hindus and Sikhs, if they want to travel to India for religious purposes or for other purposes, then they would not be stopped and that they would be allowed to come to India. The final point that I would like to make here is, of course, you have also mentioned that Mr. Tanikzai is an important entity as far as the Taliban leadership is concerned. But now that the work on making the Taliban government is in the final stages, it is being expected that Mr. Tanikzai would be the foreign minister of the Taliban regime. One more point, if I could add, that in the early 80s, Sher Tanikzai, he did his IMA course in India. So he has good connections with India. He knows India. And just a few days ago, he had spoken to our news channels and he had said that the Taliban government would like positive relations, political, cultural, economic relations with India. And Afghanistan is very happy with the projects that India has done in Afghanistan, and it would like India's engagement and involvement with Afghanistan to continue.
In fact, several senior Taliban leaders have been giving interviews to the Indian media, including Mr. Anas Haqqani, who actually purportedly said that, Hindus and Sikhs and people of Indian origin and Indians do not need to be evacuated from Afghanistan. They would stay in peace there as would all other minorities. And they seek good relations. He also apparently said that, Kashmir was, an internal matter of India. So at this point of time, Taliban leadership appears to have made all of the right noises. The Taliban government formation process has gone on inordinately long, wouldn't you say? They took over Kabul on the 15th of August. Subsequently, it's been like 2.5 weeks. There isn't any certainty in terms of when the government formation will be completed. What is one to make of the situation in Afghanistan at the moment?
The Taliban senior leadership has been making all the right noises over the last few days when they have been speaking to the Indian media. You are right that Anas Haqqani has recently stated that people of Indian origin, Hindus and Sikhs who are nationals of Afghanistan, they could continue to live there, their safety is guaranteed, their security is guaranteed, and they should continue to contribute to the development and prosperity of Afghanistan. They have also said, and Mr. Stanikzai has also said, and Anas Haqqani also, that Kashmir is an internal matter of India and they have no interest in interfering in Kashmir. So I think these are very positive statements. But we'll really have to see whether the Taliban is able to walk the talk, whether they are really able to implement what they are saying on the ground. Because Taliban is really riven with factionalism. And this brings me to your second question about the formation of the government. As you said, more than 2.5 weeks have elapsed. And so far, the Taliban has not been able to put together its government. There are lots of pulls and pressures. Just very briefly, if I may say. One is the Haqqani group that is controlled by the ISI in Pakistan. So Pakistan wants, it says that this is payback time. Pakistan has been helping the Taliban for the last 20 years, even before that. But particularly over the last 20 years, not only has it provided safe havens to the Taliban, it has given whether it's the training or wherewithal or military equipment, everything has been provided. So those elements which are favorably inclined towards Pakistan should be included in the government which comes up. The second is the Mullah Yaqub group from Kandahar is the place from where Mullah Omar had started the campaign and so to say gave birth to Taliban way back in 1994. And that wants that there should be much greater representation of the Afghans nationalists, so to say, in the government that is formed. So many other groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan, Al-Qaeda. You referred to the congratulatory message that has gone from Al-Qaeda to the Taliban, where they have mentioned that their next area of operations, in addition to the Levant and others, should be Kashmir. But all of them have supported and helped the Taliban in its fight against the Afghan government of Ashraf Ghani and the American forces. So they also want their pound of flesh. So I think there is this factionalism going on, but it is quite likely that the government might be established. And what is becoming clear, a little bit of writing on the wall, is that it is going to have a Supreme Council of anything between 12 to 72 people, something on the model of Iran, where there is going to be a supreme leader like the Rahbar, which will be Maulana Akhundzadeh, who has really not been seen so far in public. It is stated that he is in Kandahar. Number two, the head of the government is going to be Mullah Baradar, who was the deputy to Mullah Omar when the Taliban was established. Of course, he has a challenger in Mullah Yaqub, who's the son of Mullah Omar. Let us see what happens. And as I mentioned, there is likelihood of Mr. Stanikzai becoming the foreign minister.
August 31st, the day that the India met with the Taliban representative in Doha, was also the last year of India's rotating chair of the United Nations Security Council. The UNSC uttered this resolution the day before that on Afghanistan, requesting the Taliban to ensure that, firstly, safe passage was allowed for those who want to leave the country, and second, that Afghanistan must not be allowed to be used for terrorist activity against other countries. Does this mean that the world community is gradually coming around to the point of view that they have to deal with the Taliban? So why make it uncomfortable by, constantly emphasizing on that past?
Yeah, just 2 points here, Nilova. One is that even when reference to Taliban was not made in the resolution, Russia and China still abstained from the resolution. In fact, there were, out of the 15 countries, these were the only 2 countries that abstained. So it was passed, with the support of 13 members of the UN Security Council. You would also see that the resolution which was adopted on the 16th of August, in that also there was no reference to the Taliban as a terrorist organization, because the Taliban had occupied Kabul and had control over the whole country, and Mr. Ashraf Ghani had fled on the 15th night. I think assessment is spot on, because the world now thinks, there are still nationals of many countries which are there in Afghanistan. There are also Afghans who have worked with, let us say, the US forces as interpreters, as drivers, or in other capacities, and the United States would like them to be brought out. Similarly, with some other NATO countries, it must have been felt, why rub them the wrong way when we have to sort of, engage with them. And I think all countries are also very keenly aware that Afghanistan has the possibility of sinking into becoming terrorist hub, not only for the region, but for other countries also, because the capacities of ISK, Islamic State, Khorasan, and Al-Qaeda might have been degraded for the time being, but with the support and with the space that they will get there, and the drug money and so on and so forth, they could come up also very quickly. And then there are other organizations up north, whether it is Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, whether it is Hizb ut-Tahrir, whether it is Ansarullah, whether it is Islamic Jihad Union. So there are many terrorist organizations which have been active and operational on the territory of Afghanistan. The international community definitely doesn't want these terrorist organizations should create problems and difficulties for the global community, for the regional players, regional countries. I forgot to mention ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic Movement, which is affiliated to the Uyghur Muslims, and China is particularly sensitive as far as the activities of ETIM are concerned. So I think I agree with your assessment that this must have been the thinking behind it, that going forward we need to engage with the Taliban government, whether we like it or not, at least for some limited functional purposes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sajjan.
Thank you, Nilova.
You were listening to our discussion on evolving situation in Afghanistan and its implications on world and region. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Nilova Roy Chowdhury, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official.